It's one really bad dream, but at 1/12 the size. Here's a relook at the Mezco Toyz, A Nightmare on Elm Street 1/12 Collective, Freddy Krueger. Whatever you do, don't fall asleep. The 1/12 Collective Freddy Krueger figure features 4 head portraits capturing the fearsome expressions of the Dream Demon, including one with a removable faceplate that reveals the skull sculpt from the iconic scene where Freddy and Tina have a fatal encounter. Freddy is outfitted in his infamous striped sweater and comes complete with signature clawed hands and a trash can lid straight from Tina's nightmare. Nancy, your boyfriend's on the phone. Just before we get a closer look, a relook, if you will, at the 1/12 Collective Freddy Krueger, I'm going to grab, the tape measure and see how tall the figure stands. We have looked at this figure before, but like the Jason Voorhees we just recently had a look at, apparently you guys want to see this guy reviewed again. Freddy Krueger actually stands exactly 6 inches in height, or the figure's about 15.5 centimeters tall. I'm sure not the boys you're generally dreaming about, but here's what the Freddy Krueger looks like with the just recently re-looked at 1/12 Collective Friday 13th Part 3 Jason Voorhees. We also did bring this figure in from before as well. Here's what he looks like with the Texas Chainsaw Massacre Leatherface, also from the 1/12 Collective. And we had done this as well when we looked at Jason Voorhees. I did want to bring in an Ultimate release from NECA. Here's what he looks like with the Nightmare on Elm Street Ultimate Freddy Krueger. Because the review of Jason Voorhees is still pretty fresh on our minds, then the things that we're about to have a look at may seem quite familiar to you. First, Freddy Krueger comes included with a display stand. Though before it was a shower curtain with Jason's hand reaching through it, this time around we have Nancy, and then somebody's up there by her pillowcase. The Nightmare on Elm Street display stand does look quite good. Still using, of course, the same circular stand as what we already got before. And, of course, like before, it also comes included with the adjustable neck. Now, I don't, again, have any plans at all, any purpose in mind to have actually these adjustable necks used with displaying of my figures. Usually with all my horror figures, and really all the 1/12 Collective, I usually just tend to put my figures on the actual display stand. See, there's a peg right there. If you did want to use the adjustable neck, say if you wanted to have, I don't know, Freddy Krueger maybe floating around in the air in your dreams, what you can do is on the bottom of the display stand, take the post that's on the bottom of the adjustable neck and push all the way through, and you'll find it's the easiest way to remove the peg. The peg, make sure you don't lose it. I've just got it off to the side here. Then you just pop that back out, reverse around the other side. Now you got yourself an adjustable neck. Now the adjustable neck adjusts here, 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 and here. And of course you can also open up the waist clip. And then you can take yourself, your Freddy Krueger, and just clip it around his waist. Now, would anyone display the figure like that? I mean, obviously, you probably could do a little bit better of a job than what I'm doing right now, but I'm never going to use the adjustable neck. Maybe the off time that I might have used it maybe with one of my Superman 1/12 Collective figures, because I think I did have one Superman figure. Yes, I think that's correct. But all the other times, I'm usually just having the figures displayed onto their display stands. So, of course, while showing you guys what this actually looks like, I still want to make sure I'm not going to lose the peg, because the peg is the very crucial thing of displaying the figure. By the way, though, on the bottoms of his feet, Freddy Krueger does, in fact, actually have 2 peg holes on the bottoms of his heels. And you just plug that onto the display stand. It just looks, I think, a little nicer than this weird-looking floating display stand with the adjustable neck. I just don't know if I'm a big fan of that. What I am a big fan of, though, is the fact that they all include these 1/12 Collective baggies. These are good if you want to keep all your accessories stored inside of these instead of always having to go back to the boxes. Most of my boxes are always usually kept in the basement, and they're always usually hard to get to because I always have like a stack of them off to the far corner. With the baggies like this, they're always easy then just to keep all your accessories in there. You could write down below if you wanted to, Freddy Krueger's accessories. You want to just make sure, of course, your writing isn't big enough that it's going to just wander its way off the end of the actual bag, but just write down below. Or you could also take yourself a label printer, or hey, you could also just leave it blank. Anyone would know right away, I'm sure, the accessories inside that would belong to Freddy Krueger, because of course he does have various different burnt faces, not to mention, and seeing again that we just recently looked at Jason Voorhees, comparing out the accessories from one figure to the other. You might notice, though, that Freddy comes up a little bit short on extra things. Although he does benefit from having now extra heads, Jason only had 1, Freddy has a total of 4. Just before we actually look at those extra heads, the figure comes included with his trash can. Trash can looks to be molded here, I'm guessing, in silver plastic, as you can see on the bottom there, and then they just brushed across it a darker coloring of gray, maybe like a gunmetal gray, just again to give it a little bit more wear and tear. Doesn't really serve much of a purpose. You know, to look at something like this and then realize something that was omitted, I do kind of wish in a way that they could have included the telephone that Nancy's talking on that has a little tongue sticking out. Why would they have not included that? And yet they include the trash can. Something else that goes along with the trash can, one thing that unfortunately is omitted here with Freddy Krueger, and I could understand why they omitted it, was the extendable arms. It would probably just be a little bit harder, of course, because the character's contained already in a sewn-up sweater. It would just be very impossible, I would imagine, just to try to get in there to remove those arms and get the longer arms in there. Maybe a future release? Being the fact of how old this figure is, I don't think a future release is going to be part of the discussion. What we could, though, discuss is the fact the figure comes included with a couple of swappable hands. Now, he has a relaxed hand on this side. He has the relaxed glove on the other. But he also has a closed fist for no reasons. I have no idea why they would have included a closed fist. Like, what would be the choices on Mezco's part? Let's include a closed fist with Freddy Krueger. What purpose would it serve? I guess if he's angry at the kids for leaving the dreams, I mean, he could be flailing his fist. He also comes included as well with another relaxed hand. The relaxed hand, again, only goes on this side, but because he already has one on this side, that really isn't, when you're looking at the two, that much different, really. It doesn't make any sense at all. Why would they give you a secondary hand that's doing basically the exact same job? This hand at least does a job of doing something different. This is, of course, the one that he starts to slice off his tiny little piggies. Is this little piggy that went to the market? This little piggy stayed home? No, this is the one that stayed home. This is the one that went wee, wee, wee. Apparently he went wee, 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 squirting out the side there. All the ooze of the green is oozing out the end of the finger, or what's left of it at least. This does then just replace with this hand right here. He does also have a swappable hand that then replaces out with the relaxed hand. I just want to show you guys first what the glove looks like. This is the relaxed glove. Looks really fantastic. I love the way they've actually painted the gold on there, as well as the more darker, dingier looking brown. But he does also come with one other glove, which I think had a problem when the first time I had a look at this figure, is this hand right here. First of all, it has a pointing finger, while all the other hands are basically, all the other fingers are all bent back like this. This one blade right here is off. I would have said it's broken, and I probably would be right by saying that, but you could still take the blade and the end of the finger and put it back in that hole. Does that still make it broken? Yes, I think it still makes it broken. I still have yet to actually glue this, and every single time I look at this hand, I keep saying the same thing. You know, you got to get around to gluing this thing. I'm sure I'm going to get around to gluing this right after this review. And again, this hand just swaps out with this hand right here. You want to see it? Okay, we'll see it. Just go ahead and remove the hand, and while you're removing the hand, carefully first of all, you'll notice that the end of the glove still stays behind. This, with a little bit of pressure and persistence on your part, you probably could just pop that right off. Just leave it be, leave it be. Now, I don't know what caused the breakage the first time around. Maybe I was putting too much pressure against the glove, but you want to just kind of wiggle it onto the provided post. Just pop it on like that. It doesn't help matters at all that the post is so small. That's really difficult not to put pressure against those blades to get the glove to stay in place. And if I can actually get it on there, why am I now having problems doing this? Of course, while the camera is rolling, let's just go ahead and pop this back on. It just wiggles onto the provided post. Like I said, it just pops in place. Did I have it in place? I hope I have it in place. And then from there, we can go ahead and just put the blade back in. I'm sure this is what caused this problem of having the hand, see there, the hand's falling off. We'll just, you know what, we'll leave it off for right now because I know there's a whole lot of problems ahead of me if I don't potentially break the extra blades on the actual hand. So let's just put the relaxed hand back in place because I know of the two, that's the easiest one to stay in place. There we go. We're just going to put that off to the side with the promise. I got to write this down somewhere. Fix Freddy's glove. I'm just actually writing it down. I'm not really writing it down. I'm just kind of retaining it in my memory. I'm sure I will still forget. Putting the figure down here, he also comes included, again, a couple of swappable hands, swappable head sculpts. We'll just get him to stand here right now. The figure also comes included with a fedora. The fedora looks okay on its own, but then the moment you decide to put it on Freddy's face, Freddy's head, it kind of looks a little off-sized. It looks a little, I don't know, misshapen. Now, I know obviously the original fedora on the Nightmare 1 Freddy would have looked a little like this, but I think like there's something to be off about the sizing here. I don't know if it's just this part's too thick, this part's too narrow. I don't feel it really looks accurately to the size. Maybe it doesn't look as bad from the side of the character, but looking at straight forward, it kind of looks like the fedora is kind of misshapen. Am I the only that's maybe the only one that's thinking that? By the way, I did default this guy to start with a smiling face. I'm just going to remove the fedora right now. All of the head sculpts are actually, by the way, attached to the neck. So when you are removing any one of the heads, you're also removing the neck that goes along with it. Each one of the head sculpts very nicely painted. while maybe being a little underwhelmed by the way they've actually handled the sweater, I will say, like, the head sculpts, all of them are really quite good. Now, there's a couple of different heads to choose from. There's a neutral expression. I think this is the one that kind of starts things off when you first get this guy out of his packaging. Basically just a neutral expression Freddy. The scars are placed in about the same places, and they're all nicely done here. All the gashed wounds there. Look how dark red they are. Very nicely painted. But you got this defaulted head. You also have this one here, which is a slightly more grimaced expression for Freddy. This one's also a really good looking head sculpt. And then there's this one too, which I was really nice to see that they actually included. It's the skull face. To remove the heads, by the way, is just a case of popping off the neck, making sure, of course, the neck goes along with it. And you'll notice there's quite a long provided post there, and that's actually sitting inside the socket. Then go ahead and just take the head that you want to use, pop that on top of the ball joint. Nice little satisfying snap. The benefit of this one is not only the fact he does have a ghoulish looking skeletal face, but he also has a face that goes over top of it. The face will not convince anybody that that looks realistically like Freddy. I mean, it's not like you could really display this guy on the shelf all the time looking like this. Someone's going to come downstairs and going to say, hey, what's wrong with your Freddy? By the way, it does still gives you the chance to kind of put the fedora on his head, but it looks like Freddy's trying to change the cat litter box. Looks a little strange, doesn't it? But the benefit of this one is the fact that the faceplate does actually remove. And it stays in pretty good too. Here's what the inside of the face actually looks like. It's frictioned, it's not magnetized or anything like that, but it stays really well in place. It just looks extremely silly on Freddy when you have the figure displayed with this all the time. Probably would just imagine having the figure displayed with the skeletal face, or again, like of the head sculpts, I think my favorite is probably, yeah, again, like the smiling Freddy face. Let's just go ahead and pop that off. So I did say, like, the head sculpts were all good on them, and that the sweater is a little underwhelming. The problem with the sweater, though, is the fact that they had to print the stripes on there. Now, they could have gone also the route of what NECA does with the retrocloth figures and actually sewn on the actual stripes to the sweater. Unfortunately, though, what goes with most retrocloth figures from NECA Toys is the fact that the sweaters tend to look really puffy. This sweater actually looks a little bit better and more conformed to the shape of Freddy's body. It's a much smaller sweater, but unfortunately, in order to get the stripes, what they ended up having to do was they had to print the stripes on by probably like a printing press. It does sort of look artificial. It doesn't look like actually naturally striped sweater that you would sew by hand. It just looks like someone took a bit of green paint and just striped it across the sweater. Being that this is also Nightmare 1 Freddy, you'll notice that he doesn't have the stripes on his sleeves here. He just has the regular red sleeves. The sweater looks good, as well as the pants. I just don't still like the idea that they actually had to print on the stripes, because it just looks a little artificial. The pants themselves are a little bit more in a brown. Of course, when you lift up the pant legs down below, kind of similar to actually Jason Voorhees. Normally, you'd expect to see shoes and just above that, whatever, like socks. I don't think Freddy's actually still wearing socks. But this actually, he has boots. So you can see the way that the boots are sculpted gives him some decent articulation, which we'll talk about right now. Okay, so for the figure's articulation, the head sculpt's going to be on a ball joint. But again, being that it's attached all as one piece, there's no ball joint here on the neck separately from the head, so everything is all collectively going together. It does look down and up, back and forth, and of course you can also rotate the head all the way around. Arms come out at 90 degrees. You can take those arms and rotate them all the way around. Normally, you'd be able to rotate them all the way around. Obviously, just with the sweater bunching up like this, you're not going to be able to get a full 360 rotation, but you can still move it forward and back. The figure has a swivel in the bicep, double hinge on the elbow, and the hands do rotate all the way around. Oh, there goes Freddy's glove. Writing that down is something else I'm going to have to do before the end of this review. Upper torso is on a ball joint. Something always gets claimed by the floor. Lower torso ball joint. The legs do split out on Freddy. There's a swivel at the top of the thigh. Double hinge on the knee. And then there's the articulation here down below with the boots. Back and forth, and rocking back and forth this way as well. And of course, already mentioned, the figure does have pegels on the undersides of his feet, overlooking the fact that he is now missing one hand. It's a nice looking Freddy. I like the head sculpts. I think all the head sculpts are really good. I mean, some of them work a little bit better than others. And of course, when it comes to displaying this guy, I like to display him with all my other Horror 112 collective figures. So we just recently had a look at Jason Voorhees. Might as well just bring him back. There is definitely also a size difference between the two. Freddy is notably shorter than Jason, as it really should be. But while Jason did have a lot more accessory count when it comes to weapons that he can wield, Freddy doesn't have as much of that, but he does have a lot more of it when it comes to interchangeable head sculpts. I do kind of wish in a way that they could have still included a tiny little telephone. Even if it wasn't an accessory I was ever really going to display with the figure, the telephone with the tongue is just something as iconic maybe much more iconic than the actual trash can lid. I just don't know why they wouldn't have included it. The Freddy does have a few little problems, like they already mentioned, the fact that the hand does have the one problematic little pointing finger. I'm marking it down on my list of things to do. Don't worry, I will glue it. But yeah, nice looking Freddy overall. And of course, the finishing up the touches of it, just adding the fedora on the end of his head, on the top of his head. I do like the look of this figure, but the likelihood that we are going to be getting any other Freddys, I mean, I would imagine that 112 Collective, they've done one figure, and that seems to be enough for them. They've only done one Jason. They've only done one Leatherface. They've only done one Michael Myers. I would imagine the case would probably be still the same when it comes to Freddy Krueger. I don't think we're ever going to get any others. I would love to have seen if they could have done maybe a Dream Warriors Freddy, something where they could have incorporated the stripes on the sleeves. I would imagine the stripes, by the time of progression, of course, making the figures a little bit better than the ones from before, I would hope that the striping on the sweater would have been a little bit better if they had done another Freddy, because that's one of the only things I feel is a stumbling block for this Freddy. It's just the way they printed the stripes on his sweater. Not liking the look of that at all. Well, I did have 2 goals today, and I completed both. The first one was I found the glove that was actually on the floor. That was easy enough to find. The more important goal, the one that had been postponing this whole time, was I finally fixed the finger on Freddy's other glove. I just took a little bit of glue. I mean, obviously, I don't really always want to rely on glue, but being the fact that that's always going to be a problem, and if I only just put it back in the bag, I know every single time I go back to that glove, I'm going to be like, why didn't you just get around to actually gluing that finger? I said, no, I'm actually going to do it this time around. So now the hand is finally fixed. For all that work that I actually put into it, it's probably not the hand I'm going to be choosing anyways. Up to this point, and still probably, I'm going to continue to have the figure displayed with a relaxed glove hand, because I think it really gives the chance to also show all the paint work that they put into this piece. Not only in Freddy's glove, but all the 4 different interchangeable head sculpts that he comes included with as well. I'm choosing right now the smiling face, but there's a lot of other worthy contenders when it comes to displaying this figure. Probably not going to display him, though, with the skull face, even though I like the idea that he actually has the peel-away face that goes over top of it. Realistically, it looks a little out of place. It looks jank. And anyone putting that on display as their defaulted Freddy, I'm sorry to hear that that's the way you decide to choose displaying your figures. Freddy does look good on the shelf. He's obviously a little bit smaller than some of the other 112 Collective figures, but they put just as much time, just as much effort, just as much paint in this figure. Unfortunately, though, the one part they decided to paint on him was actually the stripes on the sweater. It's the one thing that still continues to look out of place on Freddy. I know, obviously, the alternative of that is that they would have to have sewn individual pieces of fabric together, and it just would have looked awkward as well. It would have also looked jank. So what they decided to do instead, the simpler route, I suppose, was that they just painted the stripes onto the sweater. And I gotta say, it looks fake. And if that's the goal that they had in mind, mission accomplished. What do you guys think of the 112 Collective Freddy Krueger? Have you guys had the chance to pick up this figure? I know, like the Jason Voorhees, we've already had a look at. He's a little on the older side. Checking online, by the way, because I'm sure anyone who was asking, what's the price of what this guy's going for right now? Thought ahead of that, and I actually looked online. I think this guy's going for like about $160 to $180, unless you can find this guy at a cheaper price. Or you never know, you might be able to stumble into a local comic book store and they just happen to have one sitting on the shelf. I have no such luck. But I am glad at least I did hold on to this guy. The only again 112 Collective figure that I've actually gotten rid of is the 1978 Michael Myers. I'm still trying to track one down. I'm looking online as we speak. Well, not literally as we speak, because we're talking together right now. But as we're checking around, as I'm looking around, I can find one for about $140, and that's still sealed. I think that's a pretty good price. Do you think that's a good price? Let me know. If in the meantime, guys, if you guys did enjoy this video, here I am thinking of 78 Michael Myers. If you guys did enjoy this video, why not throw it a like? If you guys are loving the content you guys are seeing, and you certainly do want to stick around for more, we may not have, we've kind of covered off most of the territory on 112 Collective, at least of the horror variety. Just recently announced, by the way, is Mezco is going to be doing a 112 Collective Ghostface. Yes, very excited for that one. I don't think a pre-order is up yet for him, but the moment there is one, I'm definitely going to be getting one in, because I definitely want to get my hands on that 112 Collective Ghostface. Other than that, though, I don't think there's not much in the way of 112 Collective horror, but I'm always keeping my eyes open, believe you me. Definitely going to still be having more videos on the way, guys. If in the meantime you guys want to go back and look at my other 112 Collective reviews, popping up at the very end of this video will in fact be a playlist of all the other 112 Collective stuff that I've done from Mezco Toys. And hey, why not? I might be a little bit generous. I might just throw up on there as well a playlist for other things I've looked at from Mezco as well. More videos coming your way, guys, as always. So thanks for always watching, and I'll see you guys next time.